New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And hello again, dear ones, dear Reverend Dr. Robert with you over here.
And I am, I guess, Reverend Dr. Bill over here.
Exactly. And this is New Thought for today. Reverend Elzia is off visiting with family. And so we pulled in our favorite special guest host, Dr. Bill, to, yeah, that's you. I'm talking to you over
so
there.
Sweet. That's so sweet.
All the way from New Thought, Philadelphia, great friend of the network, and all that. So, Doctor, I love that when I call Dr. Bill and say, "Hey, I need a guest," and I don't want to have to twist your arm, he just says, "Okay, I'll be there."
Sure, fine, we'll do that. And it's like 45 minutes, so that's easy.
Exactly. And
I've told you the joke that we taught each other in ministerial school. What does it mean when a minister looks at his watch?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all. Nope. Nope. And let me say in conclusion, that means there's another 15 minutes coming.
Yes. I love that one. In conclusion, I'll be doing this again 3 more times before we're done. So grateful you're with us, and it's good to have you. We got together and we're like, all right, what do we want to talk about? Because the whole idea behind this program is that we're talking about the future of New Thought and where New Thought is heading, and where it, as a movement, as organizations, as a culture, as whatever it is. And, it always reminds me that most people watching this program know exactly who I am, but some may only have an idea about who you are. So want to tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you serve and where you show up. And I know we could be here all day with just how you show up. So pick and choose.
I show up uninvited, looking for a meal. No, I'll do concentric circles out from New Thought Media Network. I am the host of the Practical Prayer Podcast, which is recorded live on network on Mondays. When I say recorded live, we had been doing the podcast, which is distributed as an audio podcast all over podcast land. We've been doing it for about a year, and then decided that we would bring it live to New Thought Media Network. So it's kind of like when somebody does a late night TV show. They get the studio audience together and they do a warm up, and the audience gets to see what's going on, and they do a little bit of chit chat, and then they record the show, and then everybody goes home. So we kind of do the same thing on New Thought Media Network. So you get to come in at 1 o'clock Eastern, which I guess is 11 o'clock Mountain Time on Mondays, and kind of watch behind the scenes as Carol and I either figure out what's going to happen in the show, or more likely, don't. Another opportunity to wing it. I'm also the host of God Calls, which is godcall.org. And that's basically, if you were to take a Sunday message and whittle it down to 30 seconds and have it show up on your phone at an unexpected time, that's what a God Call is. It's by subscription. You can go to godcall.org and find information about that. And that happens to be one of my superpowers, is the ability to take a pithy idea and whittle it down and have it show up in 30 seconds. Which probably has something to do with my background in top 40 radio way back in the good old days. I am a co-founder and the spiritual director now of New Thought Philadelphia, which is an independent New Thought spiritual community smack dab in Philadelphia. We've been doing this for like 12, 13 years at this point, and involved with CSL before that, and involved with RSI before that, and involved in independent ministry before that, et cetera, et cetera. So I've been doing this for a while. Let's see, I'm also involved in both the International New Thought Alliance, the INTA, and the affiliated New Thought Network, which is Anton. At Anton, I'm the administrator, so I'm the guy who basically makes everything run, or basically make sure that the people who want something to happen can talk to each other. And I'm the chief technology officer at both of those organizations, so I help with the tech, and I am sort of adjunct faculty for technology at New Thought Media Network as well. We were at the INTA Congress putting together the new Thought Media Network rig, and I determined that if there's a Venn diagram of New Thought ministers who can program a static IP address with a subnet mask, it's probably just me.
Probably just you, yes.
And by the way, if there's anybody who's watching now who knew what I was talking about, give yourself the gold star.
If there's anybody that understood what Bill was just talking about, we'd like to talk to you. Because we'd like to get you on the team as quick as possible.
And I tried to keep that down to a half a sentence. So, and basically that's what I do. I do technical support for other New Thought ministries because I have both a technology ability and a familiarity with ministry. So I help bridge that gap.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, that's enough about me.
And I want to say that I think, Bill, that the roles that you play, the places where you show up, you are that Venn diagram. You are in the center of so many different things and again, from my perspective of where we're going as a movement, where the various organizations overlap and where the various organizations are unique. And we're going to talk a lot about that later in the program here today, folks. So you definitely want to stick around, join the conversation, drop a comment, ask questions as we go. Because we've got a lot of territory, I would say, to cover today. And I'm really excited for the conversation because, to me, part of what we're going to explore and share today is, I just kind of came to this thought, but you're a different definition of a journeyman ministry. Your journey takes you it gives you a really unique perspective of the whole of things that are happening rather than just that one specific focus of, let's say, New Thought Philadelphia. And I know you do a great amount of work and a great job staying focused on supporting that one community, that individualized, let's say, community. But you also have the talent and the ability to let that ripple out and take the perspective of the whole, of the bigger picture. And that's really, really cool. And we get to share in a lot of fun events, you and I.
Yes, we do. Yes, we definitely do.
And the one we want to start with, folks, is called My Election Intention. I'm going to pull up a banner here and let you see just a little bit more about this. Here it is. Now, you may have heard about this already. It's 100 days of mindful practice. You can see by the dates that everything has already begun. And that doesn't mean that you can't get involved. You can start today. Just text JOIN to that number there, 470-784-0250, and become part of this whole process. And Dr. Bill, I know both you and I will be presenting part of these daily calls. Are recorded phone calls, and my first one comes up on Saturday, so I got to record mine today, actually. and I wanted to wait. I wanted to hear how other people were approaching the topic and how other people were using the material, really working to align this project with Prentice Hemphill's book. We'll show you that image again there, folks, What It Takes to Heal. And working with those principles. So I would love to hear. I know you've been getting the phone calls. I haven't heard your voice yet, so I'm pretty sure your first one's probably coming up in the near future here. But tell us a little bit more about what it was that attracted you to say yes to be a part of this program.
When we were initially talking about this, it was while Joe Biden was still at the top of the ticket, and there had been this ongoing battle that had been raging for 5 years already, and it was just more and more and more of the same, with the lines that were completely dug in. And all that happened whenever I paid attention to it was that I got agitated. And I, one of my pastimes is getting myself past agitation. But there were a lot of people who I was engaging with who were also getting agitated about this. So when and I heard about this from Robert. When Robert told me about the whole thing, I immediately contacted David Alexander. The idea behind it is the same thing that Ernest Holmes was talking about, is that we're choosing to create the life that we are intending. And if we're focused on how bad it could be and how bad it has been and how horrible this situation is, then it just gets us agitated and it doesn't create anything new. And the idea behind this program is not, here's who you should vote for, because that's not the point. I definitely think that you should vote. And there's a lot of reasons for how you choose what you're going to vote for, who you're going to vote for. And the big election is the presidential election, and there's a lot of other elections that are going on the same day. And if we turn that into an activity of consciousness, then consciousness can unfold and prevail. And I was joking with Dr. David Alexander that between the time I signed up for this and the time that the daily calls started, the Democratic ticket changed, and suddenly the mood in the country shifted completely. I said, man, you're good. The idea is not who we're going to vote for or how the election is going to come out. It is about, as far as I'm concerned, love unfolding, for us to not be stuck in the same hurts and quagmires that we were previously, that we are opening up to something new. And the user experience on these basically is every morning your phone rings. It's the same number from somewhere in the Atlanta area. And you get the pre-recorded message. You can let it go to voicemail. It's a little bit challenging. My voicemail cuts off at 2 minutes. But you can also go to the website, which is myelectionintention.com, and you can hear all of the previous messages. You can play those back there as well. And also, after you've joined, you can dial that number, and it'll play today's message back for you again. So the idea is not for you to do anything. It is to take part in this process and open to something new unfolding, and then get thine divine self out of the way.
Yes. It's, to me, this is such a great demonstration. And I had a similar experience in that I gave a Sunday talk that Sunday to a community, and we didn't know that there would be a change in the ticket later in the afternoon. Nobody knew what was coming, but I had really promoted this experience as a way to demonstrate our spiritually informed social action. And I'm hearing more and more about that in various talks from various ministers, that social action doesn't have to be all protest and you're wrong and such. It can be as simple as lending our consciousness, being a part of raising the collective consciousness of humanity by coming to these types of experiences. So it's and then somebody from that community called me the next morning and said, "Man, do you see what you did?" I was like,
You're good.
I'm not doing. I'm not taking this. It's not me. It's God that made that change. So we'll see how it all goes. But I can say that my wife signed up as well, and I think we've got over a couple thousand people now that are receiving these calls every morning. And again, folks, you can still sign up and participate through the remainder of the election cycle. That I'm now looking forward to them. My wife and I, if we're anywhere near each other, we share them and we listen to them together, and then talk about what was shared for a few moments as well. And I know that we have very specific instructions, folks. These things can't be longer than 3 minutes because the company that SLCA is using cuts off the message at 3 minutes as well. So if anybody runs long, it gets cut off and you don't hear the end of it. So where everybody's being really careful about staying within the time frame.
I'm going to have a tough time stretching past 30 seconds. That muscle memory from the God calls is just going to, I just clam up after a half a minute.
Exactly. I hadn't thought about that. That could be the challenge for you, taking it to 2 minutes. So, but we encourage you to get involved. And I can give a little sneak peek, but I'm not going to give you all the details because they're not worked out yet. But this inspired someone else that is a part of the New Thought Media Network to come to me and say, "Hey, I got another idea, and can we do this?" And beginning October 1st. You will be able to find a revolving cast of ministers and others, practitioners, sharing a similar concept on video for the last month of the running up to the election. So beginning October 1st through November 5th, we're going to have special daily short 10-minute broadcasts that take this idea and take it even a little bit deeper and a little more expansive to continue to flood the airwaves with this positive message of New Thought. Fun stuff.
Amen. Nice. That's exciting. It's the first I've heard about that.
It's the
I'm
first
sure I'll
one.
have to sign up for it. My hand. Somebody says something like that, my hand just goes up all by itself.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to have to make sure we have you on the list of presenters too. So, and that's not the only thing that's happening right now, folks. We love to share what's happening in the New Thought world. And this next thing is, again, something that Dr. Bill and I share. I was asked by the Reverend Eamon Duffy, who's going to be a guest on this program in just a couple of weeks, who I would love to see at a virtual New Thought Men's Summit. And of course, I did recommend Dr. Bill. So we're going to get to share in this as well. Now, this is happening at the end of September, September 22nd through the 27th. I will let you know, folks, this program is not for men only. Women, you will learn more about men if you care to through watching this program. And this one's a little bit more in depth. We get a chance to really talk a little bit more and tell us about your participation here, Bill. I don't even know what subject you get to talk about on this one. Oh, and we've gotten you muted somehow.
I got myself muted. No, my dog went back to being a dog, so I had to fire him. I didn't want you guys to overhear that. I'm talking about prosperity because as a spiritual practice, men have this reputation of being the providers, the hunter-gatherers, and that can change relationships and cast people into roles. And the point that I have is that being in a place of prosperity is not about going out and getting and doing. It is about being and sharing. And it's kind of the turnabout that happens there when we turn prosperity and masculinity into one thing. Instead of just saying, this is my prosperity practice and, let me be involved in a men's group. It's like, how do we embody that as well?
Beautiful. Oh, I love it. I get to talk about wholeness and oneness.
That's your thing.
Which I think is a perfect thing for me. And I want to pull this up again, folks, just so when you look at some all of these gentlemen, all of these men have a really deep history with the New Thought movement and with this philosophy. And what I love is you're going to get a half an hour presentation by each of these people across the 5 days, 6 days of the whole program. Again, it's the 22nd through the 27th. So you'll get a number of different videos delivered to you each day to be able to watch those throughout the day. You can sign up at newthoughtmens.community. The dot's a little tough to see in this image here. However, we'll put that in the I'll put that in the notes of today's video and create a quick banner here for you as well. It's www.newthoughtmens.community, where you can sign up for this program, and it's entirely free to sign up. So just head on over there and get started with this. I'm really excited about this. For a while, Bill, I was one of those people that was kind of questioning the need to have segmented gender-based groups. Does New Thought really need this this concept of men's groups and women's groups and such. And Reverend Amon really has helped me to see the necessity for affinity groups across our movement and how they do contribute to the whole. And I'm just wondering if you've run into any of that there in your community with people embracing affinity groups of this nature or pushing back against them.
It's really interesting. I did a lot of time in a community where the founder and the spiritual leader was a woman, and almost the entire practitioner corps was women, and so we formed a men's group there. And even after I left that community, I was participating in that men's group because it brings a different perspective to the experience. It's different to talk about New Thought topics with men rather than in what can be perceived of as a women's organization with men allowed to participate. I then moved to another community where the senior minister was a man, and we did not have a men's group there. Because that's like having the No Girls Allowed club. When the same thing when we founded New Thought Philadelphia, because both of the founding ministers were men, we couldn't have a men's group. We actually participated in the men's group from the old place, and the women in the group formed a women's circle and did very similar but very woman-oriented things in the women's circle. I got to go once. They was a special guest rather than somebody who was actually led into the circle. And it allows people to have an experience that's different than the entire community experience because we all bring something different to it. And it's not like you say, oh, I'm going to be in the men's community, so I'm not going to be involved in anything else. So it's possible to be on the platform team. It's possible to be a practitioner or on the prayer team. It's possible to be on the tech team. It is possible to be on hospitality. You can get involved in doing the pastoral care and going out and bringing chicken soup to the ill. You can join the board. My goodness, there's a nice way to get involved in the organization. You can do all of those things, and it's a different way to interact with different people in the community. Get involved in outreach and go feed, lunch to the homeless. And the experience that you have spiritually is different than when you go to a board meeting. So in that sense, the men's community is a way for for men who are involved in this teaching to connect with each other and get into some of the issues that tend to either be specifically experienced by men or for the male perspective on it.
Yeah, very well said. Thank you. Yes. And I know by working as part of the team with the New Thought men's community that Reverend Amon, senior minister there of that ministry, he really is dedicated to providing resources and avenues through which a small or a growing community that doesn't have a men's community can plug into this type of material. So on top of the half-hour presentation that we're all doing, Reverend Amon is also recording one-on-one interviews with all of the presenters. And again, there's 22 presenters across this program. And these are intended to be used after the Men's Summit in helping to build or plant seeds or grow an existing men's community within the various physical organizations, a way to tap into the greater wisdom of men across the movement and not necessarily have to rely on one or two people directly in your physical community to run everything and to manage everything and to come up with the inspiration and to bring in different speakers. This ministry is designed to provide those virtual resources. Some would call it a church in a box.
Yeah,
I don't really want to call it that, but I think it's a great way to keep bringing the information forward in new and innovative ways.
It does acknowledge that there's a difference between wanting to be involved in a small group ministry and wanting or being able to lead a small group ministry. So those are not necessarily the same thing. And this is a way for somebody who's interested in it, who wants to be in a group. All you got to do is, invite some friends in and say, here's the program that's already been put together for us, and nobody needs to be the visionary to make it up every month.
Exactly. Yep. All right. Hey, folks, we are going to take a quick break and let a couple of our sponsors and friends say a little bit more about what's happening in the New Thought movement. However, we will be back in just a moment, so please don't go away. Stay with us. We're going to take a breath of fresh air and a sip of water and get ready for our next segment, because we got some fun stuff to talk about in the next segment as well, and even more conferences and more opportunities to get together. So stay with us. We'll be right back after these messages.
The New Thought Men's community proudly presents New Thought Men's Summit, Foundations, an online conference, September 22nd through 27th. Register today at www.newthoughtmens.community, featuring 22 New Thought speakers, ministers, and visionaries, sharing their wisdom of modern spiritual masculinity. New Thought Men's community, empowering wholeness, centered in spiritual living.
And we're back with more of New Thought today here on the New Thought Media Network. Rev Z's off this week, and so our great friend Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony is our special guest. And here's that part of the day where we get to have a conversation about one of the things that I love the most, and that really has been one of the great inspirations in my personal resurgence within the New Thought movement over the last handful of years, and that's Anton and the affiliated New Thought Network, and of course we haven't had our retreat yet this year, so I love the fact that our summer retreat is really a fall retreat, and we kind of anchor in the year, if you will, for conferences. It happens in just a handful of weeks, and Dr. Bill, you were on the board. Now you're the admin, and you're not on the board. And we're gonna maybe twist your arm to come back on the board someday. But help us understand a little bit more about why this organization seems to be so special and so active at this time.
There are a couple of things. First of all, Anton, the affiliated New Thought Network. Look at that. Put the logo up.
That was slick.
It's me with my technology.
Yes.
Anton is the affiliated New Thought Network, and we're going to talk later about all sorts of organizations that have NT someplace in their name. Anton is very much a network. It is the connector where people who are in ministry or who are in community or who are following the New Thought teaching can connect with each other and with their passion and grow something. I had been part of a community that was actually one of the initial, very early members of Anton, and the minister would go to this Anton thing once a year and come back with all sorts of wonderful, inspiring stories. And when we started New Thought Philadelphia, which was an independent ministry, we joined Anton. And the first time that I went to an Anton conference was in Scottsdale, Arizona, at a retreat center. And it was different than the other organizations that I'd been involved in because there was no politics. And I knew there was no politics because when we met them, the people there said, "Oh, no, we don't do politics. You know, consciousness is the sole authority, and basically everything flows from that, and it's an expression of love." And it was like a homecoming, and it was exactly like a family reunion. And we get together once a year for the Anton. Now it's the Anton Retreat. It used to be a conference, but there were enough conferences, and we wanted to make it more retreat-like because you don't just go there to hear people talk. You go there to be filled. And if that happens by going to a session, then you can do that. And if that happens by taking a nap, then let that be the way to get filled. Anton, like I say, is the network that connects together and supports, or the members and the participants support each other, and the board of directors, which is a really strong and very loving and future-oriented group, continuously saying, what can we do to grow the movement? What can we do to grow our members? How can we be supportive and create a space where people can do their own thing? So it is very much the opposite of a top-down organization. It's like somebody comes along and has an idea. It's like, you go for it. And so there's the annual retreat. And by the way, this year the annual retreat is Boundless, Exploring Next Level Consciousness. And that is going to be at Unity Village, which has been the home for Anton for the last several years, and is going to be for the next several years. Because it's the largest property that New Thought owns in North America. And there's something special about being on the grounds there. The program content is great. The stuff that you get to do is great. The size of the group is currently really small, which is wonderful. I got a chance to do in-person exercises with Matthew Fox with a group of 70 or 80 people. And that just doesn't happen. And to be able to deepen into those experiences and connect that way, and to be on those grounds, and to have all of that in common is hugely powerful.
Yeah.
So in addition to the annual retreat, which by the way is coming up in October 7th through the 11th, you can still register. Oh yeah, that's, if you want to see what that looks like, put that one up there as well. That's the promotional coaster, and Robert is on the retreat team, so he got one of those when we were out there for a previous event at Unity Village. And the idea this year is exploring next level consciousness. It's boundless. And instead of having it be the usual speakers coming along and talking about what they usually talk about, the instructions that we gave the people who we invited to present was, what's the growing edge of our movement? What is this next thing that's happening for us? Come in and talk about that. Do not give us the status update of what you've been doing, what your organization's been doing. We've heard that. It's wonderful, but it doesn't need to be something that's coming from home office. If there's something that a group has done that's addressing homelessness in their community, or that's doing some sort of outreach with another group, or a partnership, we want to hear about that. We want to hear about what's going on with that. And we invited the very tippy top leaders of all the New Thought organizations, because it's the network. Yeah, there we go. So we've got Reverend Dr. Sheila McKeithen, and she lives in Jamaica. She's coming and talking about climate change and how living on an island and having the ocean water rise actually has an impact. And Dr. Sunny Cantrell Smith is going to come, and she's representing Centers for Spiritual Living, and she's not going to talk about the report card from CSL. She's going to talk about that next new thing. And Dr. Tim Stewart from INTA is going to be presenting, and Joy Fletcher, who's a past president of the Divine Science Ministers Association, is talking. David Alexander is going to be there talking about his thing, which is New Thought Liberation Theology. And Jim Lockhart is coming back from France, and he's going to talk about creating the beloved community. And this isn't to say, hey, look at what I've done. It's more to say, here's what's possible, and here's a way to put legs on it, and here's who we can be together. And let's connect and talk about who we are next. And it's a wonderful program. And the way that it's set up is there are morning and afternoon sessions. There's some keynote presentations. And we have a thing that we do, which I learned from Teen Camp, which is Power Talks. And Power Talks are 15 minutes on the platform. to share an idea or something wonderful. And the people who are doing these, I mean, Robert Brzezinski is going to be doing one talking about visioning, but Dr. Michelle Whittington, who's a keynote speaker, is going to be doing one of these, and Patricia Wagner is going to be there. Ruth Miller is dropping by, and she's going to do 15 minutes and then talk about anything you want to talk about during what we started out calling sacred time and is now is optional time. So there's the opportunity to get together in the lobby at the conference center or in the labyrinth, or to go off into the Fillmore Chapel and spend an hour with Daniel Nahmod doing an interactive musical experience. Like, here's what you're creating next new in your life. And to be able to dive into whatever is calling you and have that be the entire overall experience. Get too much going on in your head, there's a wonderful nature trail. Go take a hike around the lake. And so that's the flavor of the Anton annual retreat. And what people have been telling us for the last couple of years is that it's like a family reunion. You get together and you see people who you haven't seen in a while, and it's a hug fest. And it's not just about, oh, let's get together and be casual. It's about an opportunity to have that spiritual framework, that retreat space, to really deepen and connect with yourself and with other people. So we're cultivating that even more this year, as much as we can. And again, there's not a whole lot of paid staff. It's all volunteers. It's people who are doing this because they're passionate about it.
One of the things I love is, and I want to really make sure we touch base on this, is that this isn't just for ministers. This isn't just for practitioners and those that want to be, quote, in leadership or find that they are in leadership of an organization. This is for everyone is welcome at this. And last week when I was in Mexico and we started releasing the promotional imagery there, one of the first questions was from somebody that is here on the network and pays attention to the network and said, hey, I'm not any of those things. Can I still come? And I love how I was there, but many of my colleagues were right there in that thread and in that conversation saying, this is absolutely for anyone. I know the having a chance to be on the retreat team and help to guide the technological aspects of it. I see how much love and how much care and how much consideration is put into creating an inclusive event where you don't have to have the minister talk, or you don't have to have the DRE, the Rev D, how did somebody say it? Revder.
The Revder.
You don't have to have a Revder in front of your name. You don't have to have any letters before or after your name. You just have to have a desire to be a part of something unique. And I think that's something that I've awoken to in New Thought specifically. When I go into a business conference, you expect to sit in a cold conference room all day long listening to people talk and taking notes, and you expect to have 45 breakout groups a day and workshops in the afternoon and in the evening and all that. And here it's more about the experience of being, and the experience of being with colleagues and being with people you don't know and being with. So it's much more of a spiritual experience than just a quote, a conference or something that we have, a business meeting as it is. So
yeah. And there are a couple of other fun things that happen at the Anton Annual Retreat. There's a relatively brand new labyrinth at Unity Village, which is the largest stone-cut labyrinth in North America. And even before that one was built, one of the highlights is one of the evenings at the Anton Retreat. Usually it's on Tuesday evening. We'll go outside and do a moonlight labyrinth walk. And it's not just moonlight, it's candlelit. We have a volunteer team that sets up hundreds of candles around the labyrinth, and you can walk the labyrinth at night, and it's spectacular, especially in October, where it's just dark enough and just cool enough to have that special feeling. And if you've walked a labyrinth before, then you know overall what the experience is, but bringing that intentionality to pack that in the middle of a retreat week with people who are now your new family and best friends is hugely powerful.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give a quick shout out because the The early registration got extended, so it's still open, and you can still get the discount through the end of this month.
Oh,
And
good.
you can go. So you can go. It's on site. All the meals are included. The whole program is included. You got to get yourself there and get yourself a hotel room. You can put yourself on the waiting list at the Unity Village Conference Center, but there's a Holiday Inn down the street. So if going to Unity
And
Village has been on your bucket list, this gives you a twofer.
yeah. And if you're interested, I might just know somebody that's got a couple of rooms at the New Thought Media Network Airbnb.
I
This
see.
guy.
There you go. That
So
guy
if you
over
want to
there.
come and spend some time with the New Thought Media Network family within the Anton family, there's still a possibility of that as well. If you're interested, just reach out to me directly, and I'll get you the information on that. We do have a couple of spaces left at the media house.
The Media House, which is one of the Chateau villas on the
Yes.
grounds at Unity Village there. And that's
Um,
another opportunity to just to be there and to be in community and connect together with the other folks who are participating. One last thing that I'll mention is that it's also hybrid. We do all of the sessions
yes.
online as well, so you can participate. And it's not one of those things where you just watch it on TV. Not necessarily. There's Youth on Media Network. There's not anything wrong with watching stuff on TV, but we actually go out of our way to make it interactive for the folks who are joining in on Zoom, and that's everything from we have cameras and monitors set up so that the people who are in the room can greet and say hi to the folks who are remote, because sometimes they just didn't have the time to travel, or there's a family challenge or something health-wise going on, so they're participating virtually. But that gives us an opportunity to expand the family, and let anybody who wants to register go ahead and join in the fun. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
All right. So register today. The emails, the website's going across your screen. If you need a room and you want to join New Thought Media Network, get in touch with me. And I want to make sure we have time here before we run out of time for one of the other questions that we really had for you, Dr. Bill, because we've joked about this, you and I, so many times, how easy it is to get lost in the alphabet soup that is New Thought. There is INTA, there is ANTN, there is CSL, there is AGNT. I added to it all with NTMN, and even our friends at New Thought Men's have started calling their summit the NTMS, and so many things that have NT in it somewhere. And you've been teaching me over the last couple of years how to tell the difference, and I think you even have a better view. I find myself on the board of both ANTN and INTA currently, and diving into a little bit more of this blending and where we bump into each other. But I'd love to hear from you. What's the difference between these organizations? Where do they specialize? What makes each one of them unique? And if I'm already a member of Unity or I'm already a member of CSL, why would I ever need to be a part of any of these organizations?
Great questions. There's actually a bunch of them that are in there. And the first one is that there are denominations, if you will, of New Thought, which are groups and teachings and and lineages. So there's Unity, which was founded by Myrtle and Charles Fillmore. That's the one that owns Unity Village, and they've been doing the Unity sort of thing, and it was very Christian based to begin with. And then there's the Centers for Spiritual Living, which started out as the thing that Ernest Holmes started, based on the science of mind teaching. And so that's his lineage. It's all through Ernest Holmes. And the Universal Foundation for Better Living, which was Dr. Johnny Coleman in Chicago, and she studied Unity, but then she took it bigger. So that's a slightly different denomination. And then there's Divine Science, which was Melinda Kramer and Nona Brooks, and also from a long time ago. And they all learned the same sort of thing 100, 125 years ago, and they set up their denominations. And so those organizations each have their own wheelhouse and their own specialty and their own educational brand and the way that they do things. And those are the ones with a home office that you pay dues to, or however the organization is set up. And then there are a handful of organizations that cut across all of them, that bring together the people who understand this teaching. We're all the same. We're all teaching exactly the same thing. We're teaching a teaching of oneness. There's one creative power that creates everything. We are using it to create our lives. And you can do that by talking about Jesus being involved, or it's the way that Jesus did it, or you can do it without that, or you can do it, everything that Ernest Holmes ever wrote is the most important thing ever. It doesn't make any difference. It's still the same teaching. So the granddaddy of all of these is INTA, the International New Thought Alliance, and that one's been around since 1914. And before that, they kept getting together every year or two, and they'd form a new organization. They get the same people together, and they'd have a conference and they'd talk about stuff, and it was different based on where they got together. If it was on the East Coast, then it was all the East Coast people, and if it was in the Midwest or in Colorado, then it was different sorts of people. 1914, they did it in London, and that's where it took off. And they then created this organization called the International New Thought Alliance, and that was specifically for the purpose of everybody who is involved in all of New Thought. And Thomas Troward was a vice president of that organization. He's one of the teachers that we all have in common. And the Melinda Kramer had been involved in the organization, and Ernest Holmes was involved in the organization, and the Fillmores were participating. And these were all the people who started all of those denominations getting together saying, what is this New Thought message that we all together and individually are perpetuating, and where are we headed? What are we doing next? And how do we carry that message? And INTA has been meeting every year for 110 years now with a Congress for that specific purpose. So INTA this is who we are together. On the other side, the affiliated New Thought Network, Anton, is let us connect with each other now to celebrate what we've got at a local level and share what the goodies are and connect with each other and let something organic grow through what we're doing. And it's a huge opportunity for sharing.
Yeah.
And the third one is the Association for Global New Thought, which kind of should have probably been where the INTA went. Except I mentioned politics earlier in this conversation. Politics intervened, and that's the organization that says New Thought is a player on the world stage. That's the organization that got New Thought to be recognized as a world religion and accepted at the Parliament of World Religions. That's the organization that did the synthesis dialogues with the Dalai Lama. That's the organization that is big. Let's take New Thought and connect it in a huge way and play at that global level. So they're all different, they serve different purposes, and they feel different when you go to their events, and more they're each in their own lane.
Yeah.
Is that enough detail?
I think that brings it forward in a great way, a great explanation of the uniqueness and therefore the necessity. And so we can kind of tie this into our conversation a little earlier around affinity groups. And there's going to be times when someone is a bit more interested in making connections than they are in talking politics. And there's going to be times when people are a little more interested in maintaining the lineage and really honoring and celebrating our lineage. And each of these is fulfilling a unique need in that way. I love it. And we didn't plan on this, but I think we've got a little bit of time. And it would seem, well, it wouldn't seem, it is, all of the major New Thought organizations are bringing their archives together in this same location of Unity Village. And so there's I don't want to call it a consolidation because it isn't. They're in different buildings, they have different missions and different space. But we're rapidly coming to a place where the sacred ground of Unity Village is not just for Unity anymore. Everybody's being welcomed.
Yeah, and I was actually got an opportunity to do the archive tour. The INTA archive is still in Mesa, Arizona, where it has been for quite some time. But before it moved to the special building that they put up in Mesa, it was actually on the grounds at Unity Village. So it's going back home sometime in the next year or so. The Unity archive, of course, has always been there. And the Science of Mind archive moved in earlier this year. And so I, got a chance to go over to the 100 building and visit the Science of Mind archive. And somewhere in there is the paperwork on when the board voted for me to get my first practitioner license. So that's kind of cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then walk across the courtyard, and there's the Unity archive, which is where I had originally. That was the first one that I visited. That's where I got the material that I wound up being used for my Doctorate of Divinity for my thesis. And the INTA archive is on its way there as well. So each one serves a slightly different purpose and has a different richness to it and different material in it, because the Unity archive is focused on Unity and Science of Mind is focused on Science of Mind. And INTA is focused on the big stuff that went on for everybody. And it's possible to go into any of them and get lost. And if you get lost in one of them, you can walk across the hall and go to another one, get lost again. Have a great time.
Exactly. I hadn't thought about it, but you are right. There is paperwork somewhere where one of the leadership councils agreed that I had done everything I needed to be a practitioner, and also then again one where they decided I was okay to be a minister, and probably some that I might not know about, and that's okay too. So
go through the big books and find out whose judgment was in effect on those particular days.
Well, and as many of you know that are part of New Thought Media Network, or if you're just becoming aware of us, we love to partner with the Science of Mind archives. We do right now for a number of reasons, and part of that is because I really believe part of what we're doing today is consciously documenting for future generations the history of how New Thought is changing and how it is shifting. And there's always been the stories that Ernest never wanted churches, and it was an institute of learning and the Institute of Religious Science, and how that emerged and evolved. And I think we're seeing a similar evolution in the organizational structures today, not just the individual structure of CSL or the individual structures. There's been some movements with the board of directors and their CEO at Unity and things of that nature, but how all these things, all these what appear to be separated aspects of the movement are really coming together in a greater demonstration of oneness, and I think a greater teaching of our oneness. We say it all the time. Oneness is not sameness. The uniqueness of all of who we are is absolutely vital for the evolution of this philosophy, and it's fun to be able to see the demonstrations of our oneness in one place. Can we say that anymore?
Yeah. I went to a leadership conference. This is like 20 years ago, and it was Gary Simons who did ministerial development for Unity, and it was near Washington D.C. So there were a bunch of people in Divine Science there, and a bunch of people from Centers for Spiritual Living, which actually at that point was RSI and United, and a bunch of people from Unity. And he looks at the group and he goes, "Oh, this will be interesting." So we're all in these different organizations, and we have the teaching completely in common. He says the differences are, for example, that religious science has really good music, and Unity has Jesus Christ. And so you pick your flavor.
Exactly. I love it. All right. Hey, folks, before we go, we do need to say thank you to some people and make sure the organizations and sponsors and donors feel appreciated here. So we're going to take one more quick break, but then we're going to come back with our final thoughts. Please don't go away. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a minute. Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity, Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center, Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring. And we're back with more of New Thought today here on the New Thought Media Network. Dr. Bill, I always love it when I have someone on a show whose organization shows up in the thank you video. And so I like to take that opportunity to say directly thank you to the New Thought Philadelphia for your continued support and contributions to this network. You and your folks really do help us to make this go global and get this word out here. So thank you for that.
You are welcome, and thank you for saying so.
Mm-hmm. All right, folks, time for our final thoughts, and then we'll get back into the rest of our day. Dr. Bill, kick it off to you. Wrap this all up for us in your customary 1 minute or less.
I'm not going to talk about any of the stuff that we've been talking about today. I'm going to talk about New Thought in general. If you had the thought before, then it's not new. There's a different possibility that is open to you. There's a quote from this thing called You, which we've been teaching a class in, that we are all wicks dipped into the same divine oil. And so remember who and what you are, and let your light shine.
Beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow. All right. Yeah, put me on the spot.
This was your idea.
It's always hard to follow Dr. Bill. I'm going to just tell you that right now. So always hard to follow. So because you do have a great way of pulling the essence into a very succinct idea and reminding us that we are the light and we have to let our light shine. I am blessed every time I get to be in your company. And folks, here's where I'm gonna end it. I'm gonna give you one more really, really good reason to show up at the Affiliated New Thought Network's fall retreat this year, and that is because Dr. Bill and I have done something for the last couple years that is quite hilarious, quite appropriate, and you got to show up and you got to come to the talent show in order to see it. And unless you search around the internet, you might twist my arm to give you a sneak peek. But this man is not only a mystic, not only a great teacher, but he's a heck of a comedian, and has a heck of a way of sharing the comedy in the midst of New Thought. So you're going to have to come join us at the retreat if you want to learn more about what that is. Until then, we're going to get out of here for now. We want to thank you for being with us. We want to invite you to come back. We'll be back again next week with more on Tuesdays at 2 with the New Thought Media Network. And be sure to catch Dr. Bill Mondays at 11 Mountain.
Yep.
Oh, I just passed the test. Mondays at 11 Mountain Time for the Practical Prayer Podcast. Quick shout out to our brother Zoe. You are most welcome, Zoe. Love you. Good seeing you. Everyone else, until next time, we wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.